far.
I think it was great, obviously, to see them clinch, and that relief for them, too, just kind of like, we made it. We know we're in. No matter what, we're going to be in the postseason. They definitely earned it this year. And then last night, look, I think that they played a hard-fought game. I think they tried to win that one. It didn't happen. But the thing about them is, even if they don't get the division, they're still going to fall to what looks to be a good wild card spot and be in the wild card and be in the postseason, so they're still going to get their chance.
Craig, anything in particular that you saw the last couple of days? Added observations?
Well, I really think this is a very constructive week for the Padres front office and coaching staff, because this is the playoff before the playoff. It's a playoff without death, and that's why I called it the fun playoff this week. And so you get to learn things. I think yesterday you learned what Dylan Cease would look like in a first playoff start of his career. And maybe now he gets that out of his way, and he gets to pitch that first playoff start like it's his second playoff start. I think you've also seen L.A. is a really good team that's improved from the last time that we saw them, and facing them in the playoffs will be a tough task if it comes together.
Woods, you kind of made the point that Dylan Cease seemed a little amped in that game yesterday. He's only, I believe, had one career playoff start and lost it pitching for the White Sox. You don't get a ton of opportunities there. Craig has a good point that maybe just a little chance to get rid of some of the jitters before it really truly becomes an elimination situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool opportunity that you get to go up against, because there's other teams that are in it right now that don't have anything really to play for, and you wonder how it's going to affect them when the games get ratcheted up. And I think I like how you put it, but it wasn't fun. It hasn't been fun watching either of those games, I'll tell you that. And it's not really, when the game starts, I'm good. It's the 14 hours of waiting for the game to start every day that's been killing me. And I've rearranged things and organized things, just trying to kill time.
It's that extra half hour even from 6:40
it's the
to
half
7:10.
hour.
I'm like, all right, come on.
When the sun goes down, you're like, okay, it's midnight. Can we start this game now? But Dylan Cease, you watch him throw and you're like, Lord, like the AB, when he got Ohtani, masterclass, and that's in him, and his stuff is so nasty. And same with Michael King. Michael King, I think, probably battled more through his 5 innings, but had a better result. But he didn't have the best stuff last night. Dylan's stuff last night was nasty. He just couldn't really corral it. But it's been it's been cool. It's good practice.
You stopped right short of fun.
Yeah, I stopped short of fun.
And Paulie, I would say that if there's one thing the last couple of days that we saw is that even in 2022, there was a thought that the Padres needed to slay the dragon, that the Dodgers were the dragon. I don't know that they're the dragon anymore. Now I feel like it's two equally matched good teams going up against each other. You're not the big underdog against the Dodgers that you have been for the last decade. Now, they're still a really good team, as Craig pointed out.
They're still a dragon in the sense of World Series favorites, billion-dollar roster, MVP after MVP after MVP in their lineup. I mean, they are still a dragon. Maybe not so much in the San Diego to L.A. Way that it's been in the past for pretty much forever, because you've clearly shown that you can beat these guys. Whether you want to say you're the better team head to head, you are. The San Diego Padres are the better team head to head this year. And I watched that game last night and the game on Tuesday night, and I go, either one of those games was one pitch away from going the other direction. Coin flip game. That's an October type baseball atmosphere.
Craig, I mean, financially, the gap has never been bigger after the moves of the last offseason, but do you feel like the Padres, talent-wise, have actually closed the gap on the Dodgers this year?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a team in baseball that can close the gap on the top 3 guys in the lineup. That's one of the top 3s in the history of the sport. One thing I think we do in San Diego, and it's natural because it's kind of a tribal thing, is we downplay LA, and it's almost kind of a big brother, little brother, like, no, you're not so tough. LA's lineup is better than it used to be. There's no question in my mind that Edman, Lux, and Rojas in the 7, 8, 9, from a pesky standpoint, that stands up to Cronenworth, Solano, and the catcher. It might be a little bit better. Yeah. It might be a little bit better. That bullpen is just one slider slinging 99 mile an hour throwing guy after another. They brought up the kid from the minors. He throws 101.
104.
Yeah, he only got to 101.
Yeah. Ohtani hits leadoff, and how many times in 2 games already has he come up with a chance to do damage with runners on? Like, the bottom of their lineup has been really setting the table for him.
Now, the one differentiator is the rotation, because the Dodgers' great rotation is on the injured list, and the Padres' rotation is here. So I do think in a long series that could be a playoff advantage between the two teams. Otherwise, I think they're both very good teams.
You do get the sense in a long playoff series that it's a 7-gamer. I mean, you really get the sense when you watch those two teams play each other. Yeah, this is going 7. You know, and a true war of attrition between these two teams. And you know, we have a little bit of an advantage there based on the fact that we have 4, even 5 healthy starters if need be.
Annie, do you feel like the Padres have closed the gap, or is this a function of, hey, the Padres are having a magical season, Dodgers have been riddled by pitching injuries, and there's still perhaps, you know, a ways to go between the two teams?
I don't know about a ways. I mean, I think they're getting closer. Like the head-to-head series, obviously that makes a difference. But I agree in the sense that, remember when the Giants took the division from the Dodgers, but then that was 1 year, right? And the Dodgers came right back and did it again and again and again. And if the Padres don't take the division this year, like factually, you're just going to look at a piece of paper and say, look, the Dodgers took the division again, right? So they still remain, I think, the team that you have to go through, the team that you have to beat. I don't see them, because they had a rough season this year, being like, we're just going to fall apart next year. You know, they're not that kind of organization, right? So I think that you're closing the gap. You're definitely establishing yourself as a presence. But until you do it, and they did it in 2022, until you kind of do it consistently or win the division, it's still going to be, I think, theirs to have.
Yeah, their rough season is 96 wins or whatever.
It literally leads the major leagues in win
exactly.
percentage. They have the best win percentage.
Right.
Rough season.
That's their rough year.
All right, it's
Padres are doing a great job. I mean, no doubt about it.
No question.
Yeah.
It's our 97.3 The Padres Roundtable, the fan Padres Roundtable, presented by Roundtable Pizza. We are 158 games in. Collectively, this group has probably missed, a handful of those games. So can put the best educated guess as just about anyone on these last 4, how they're going to play out, Paulie. The Padres could still win the division. Going to need some help from the Colorado Rockies to do so. Absolutely, we'll have to win the game tonight. Obviously, the wild card is good for home field advantage. How do you see the last 4 playing out here?
I was thinking about that. I'm looking at the next 4 games, and in my head, I've got 3-1 for the Padres. I think they win tonight, and I think you absolutely can take 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Now, it just comes down to what else happens around baseball, and how many of these games over the weekend matter. Is it going to be an opportunity to bench some guys? That obviously could come into play, and maybe you go 2-2 instead of 3-1. But absolutely, 2 of 3 from the Diamondbacks is more like that should be expected for this Padres team. And I think they win tonight with Musgrove going up against Buehler.
Annie, I think the math obviously works heavily against the Padres at this point. Yet, I don't know, there's some part of me that says Coors Field is always just would be the funniest thing ever for the Dodgers to go into Coors Field and all of a sudden can't win a game when they go up against those Rockies and Charlie Blackmon's retirement. And I'm not giving up 100% hope here that the Padres could still win.
Would you not be a
NL
wreck right now if the Padres had to go to?
We'd be sick to our stomachs.
Absolutely.
Sick. 100%.
Baseball is weird. Strange things happen all the time. I think it's asking a lot, but is it impossible? No. And until they're mathematically eliminated, we've seen all kinds of things happen this year that they haven't done since 2010 or since 2001 or whatnot. So who's to say that things don't fall their way again in this situation? But certainly too, because my understanding is that if they win 2 of the next 4, they lock the top wild card spot as well, right? So
no matter what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you kind of have that as your, I think, measuring stick. You got to get there no matter what, and then, maybe get a little hope your way and continue to win, and maybe you get the division.
Or you even win 1 of 4, and the Mets lose 1 of 5, and you still wrap up home field advantage. Padres are in really good shape for that. Now tonight, of course, again, must win if you want to stay alive in the division. The Dodgers clinch if you don't. And Woods, we talked about it on our show. Paulie brought up the stat. Joe Musgrove has never beaten the Dodgers. I was not aware of that. That surprised me. I mean, do you feel like that's a concern going into this game?
No, I'm not concerned about it. It just means he's due. Just like Mookie Betts is probably due, and just like Luis Ariz is probably due. These are really good baseball players that have made a lot of money in their careers by not letting things like that matter or weigh them down and force them out of the game. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. There's no time like the present not how you start, it's how you finish. All of those things, all of those sports media cliches. Yeah, man, Joe's got the best stuff that he's had in a long time. I mean, he looks as locked in as he's ever been. And as far as them going to Colorado, you know, they've used Knack, they use Flaherty, they'll use Buehler tonight. They're going to go Yamamoto, and then what? You know,
TBD, Yamamoto, and then TBD again, I think.
Those guys need to figure out a way to, you know, Shohei Ohtani could hit a 600-foot home run in Coors Field. Will hit a 600-foot home run in Coors Field, but that place sucks. We all know it sucks. It's the worst to play in. I would not want to be in their shoes right now. I really wouldn't. And especially if they lose tonight, I would really not want to be in their shoes.
Craig, you'll take the emotion out of it. I mean, what do you see for these last 4?
Well, you know, I don't believe the Padres should exit playoff mode, which is what I thought they entered on Tuesday, trying to win every single game. Tonight, the goal should be very simple. Don't let them clinch in front of your face.
Correct.
And if you can push it to Friday, then the goal should be to force the Dodgers to win their series in Colorado. And if they win their series, they win the division, and so be it. They've earned it. But I just don't want to see the club kind of side saddle in. 2-2 is the bare minimum that I'm looking for out of this 4-game set.
We talked about it a little bit last week, and the Red Hot Mets, you might want to try to dodge them. Chris Sale, you don't really want to face him in a short series, and we all kind of thought, if you have to play someone, maybe it's the Arizona Diamondbacks. This ongoing drama with the Mets, Braves, rainouts, and doubleheader possibility on Monday changes things quite a bit in my mind. If you haven't seen the story, postponements in the last 2 games in Major League Baseball, preparing to play a doubleheader on Monday, and then likely sending one or both teams onto a wild card game the next day on Tuesday in another part of the country. So, Annie, does this change anything about who the Padres would want to face? Would you rather face a Mets team coming off a doubleheader on a Monday, having used all their pitching, although they've been really hot, or are you still like, just give us the Diamondbacks, even though they may be rested and ready to go by Tuesday?
No, if you're the Padres, you want whatever team is playing that doubleheader and getting in the playoffs and having to fly that night, probably across the country, and play an early playoff game, what's likely going to be an earlier playoff game the next day, and have a completely blown out pitching staff. This is good for the Padres. I personally don't think the Padres need it. I think that they can take on a team that has a day off before, and I don't think it's good for baseball. I think it's a bad look for baseball. But if you're the Padres, are you going to take it? Sure, it can't hurt, right?
Craig, you're kind of nodding. I mean, it's a no-win situation for baseball. You've got to keep the safety of people in the Atlanta area in mind. You've got to keep the sanctity of home field advantage and competitiveness for the Braves and having the opportunity to play those important games in their home stadium.
Major League Baseball's biggest error was letting the teams figure this out. They should have just stepped
100%.
in and said, this is what's happened.
That is it.
Deal with it.
That is it. Best interests of baseball clause. That's why you have a commissioner. But the Major League Baseball stopped having a commissioner decades ago when Bud Selig became the commissioner, and the role turned from commissioner to lackey.
Babysitter.
And 100%. And the lackey of Rob Manfred just let the Atlanta gatekeepers and bean counters, take control of this. It's ridiculous. This series should be being played right now, whether it's at Lone Depot Park in Miami, whether it's in St. Petersburg. And, of course, that's an area where they could have gone west. They could have gone somewhere, all right? There's a place that they could have gone to play. They could have gone to Globe Life Field where they played the whole postseason in 2020. The Rangers were on the road. That's it. That's the call. The Rangers are in Oakland. They could have gone to Texas and played and had no problem. It's a complete and utter disaster. And
could have come to Petco Park.
Yeah, they could.
Padres aren't here, and one of them probably has to end up here anyway. At the end of
fair enough,
man.
That's a good idea.
I mean,
You just stay, yeah.
It's a good idea.
Now, cynically, the Padres play a huge role in this. If they really want to, if they really wanted to have the Mets or the Braves come to town, then they have an opportunity to do that by just pushing the Diamondbacks down, by beating them. Also, they could lose to the Diamondbacks.
But you also so this is really next level. But you need to keep the Diamondbacks in it long enough to force that doubleheader to have to be played, because the commissioner's office has said if both teams have already clinched, if the Padres win out and the Diamondbacks are eliminated, they don't even need to play that, and then you've set yourself up against having to face either the Mets or the Braves, without having to play that doubleheader, maybe having to face Sale, probably having to face Nola and Wheeler in the first 2 games. You almost definitely have to keep the Diamondbacks in it to force that game between the Mets and the Braves on Monday. I mean, it's like we're like a tanking situation this weekend.
No, the baseball gods are listening
Yeah.
to you loud and clear.
You don't
right now,
tempt
Ben.
fate.
They just tuned in and they were like, "You had my attention, now you have my curiosity." That's what they are saying to you right now. No, in fact, the Royals could make a whole decision of this by beating the Braves this weekend. The Brewers could take the Mets out of this by sweeping them this weekend. There's plenty of variables, and the Padres just need to win their ball games to stay sharp.
And what's ultimately for the Padres, it feels like a day-to-day situation. You can only see what your situation is after every single day, and then you make your lineup decisions and your pitching decisions accordingly based on the next day and where you are and what's still available to you.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much that's how a baseball season works. Even though we live and die with each pitch, and but I think you do have to be smart. I would like to see some guys maybe get a rest, get a reset. Some guys that are scuffling a little bit. The Luis Arias of the world, the Donovan Solanos a little bit. Get a little breather. Not tonight. Tonight I want to see our very best, what we've got. But it rarely works out the way you think it's going to. Like, oh man, if we could just blow this guy out, then we can use Alec Jacob for 4 innings, and we don't have to use our high leverage guys. And it never works that way. It never does. The games it's supposed to. The games against the White Sox, where we're like, just put up 12 runs and get Crony in there, get him some innings. And no, man, those games were 3 hard-fought games. Those guys played their asses off and took you to the wire, in a couple of them. So it never works out the way we think it's going to. So they've been really good about preparation, being ready, having guys ready, giving guys breathers when they need it. Nothing changes. We've talked to Schulte enough to know he's preparing. He prepares every game the exact same way. So I'm excited, man. 4 games left to see what actually shakes out, not just for us, but the entirety of these teams. It's going to be really fun.
And it's so unlikely. It's like so unlikely based on everything we've seen from this Padres team. But there is this tiny, tiny scenario that if things don't go well for the Padres these next 4 days, they have to wait on Monday to find out who they're flying to play. So, I mean, none of us in this room expect that to happen. And probably no one listening. But you see how it does have like this ripple effect.
Well, if we learn anything from this series, Joe Davis, let Joe Davis be our teacher. It's not a matter of if Shohei's going to come to the plate. It's a matter of what's going to be on the plate when he gets there. Well, there was a 1% chance that they hit into a triple play, and lo and behold, look what happened. Let Joe Davis be your teacher, okay? And never assume anything about this game or the outcomes or what you think may happen. And it was a great lesson.
I think 1% might be absurdly high.
It might be absurdly high.
It's
I
way
boiled
high.
this down really simply to baseball is stupid, and I think just
Boils it down pretty
follow that.
It does, yeah.
pretty well, actually.
But also, I promise you this: he will never make that. He will never make that comment again on the airwaves.
Yeah.
Never, because that was a possibility. He didn't even think about it being a possibility. Lo and behold, baseball comes down and pops you
Humbles
one.
you.
Yeah, humbles you every time.
It's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, presented commercial-free by Roundtable Pizza. It is pizza royalty, and I know we've already, on this roundtable, a couple of times discussed a possible Padres playoff rotation. But as we get a little bit closer and, the specifics start to gel a little bit, I wanted to throw out a very likely scenario. If the Padres have already clinched home field advantage by Sunday, which would be Michael King's next turn in the rotation, fully expect they're going to skip him and not use him for a meaningless game on Sunday, which would have him very rested and ready to go if you wanted to use him on Tuesday in the opener. How much consideration do the Padres give to starting Michael King instead of Dylan Cease in Game 1? And Paulie, why don't we start with you? How do you consider using Michael King? Is it a piggyback situation with like a Yu Darvish, one of the other pitchers who is not going to be in that starting rotation, or do you just go immediately to high leverage relievers after Michael King is usually more of a 5-6 inning guy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking about what Eno Saris told us this morning. He said Dylan Cease is, you could not convince him otherwise. That is his Game 1 starter, and it's hard to argue with that. I kind of like Joe Musgrove maybe getting Game 1 if everything worked out that way. Look, it comes down to who are you playing, the matchups, and all that. I just don't know how you could go. We talk about it all the time for like a manager, for Mike Schilt. you have to make the moves, make the decisions that you can best explain and cover your own butt with. And I think that if you were to leave out Cease, Musgrove, or Darvish, and things don't go well for you in that 3-game series,
Tough one to answer.
we're going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? I think Michael King has relief experience, and he's probably the best suited to come out of the bullpen, whether it's game 2, if you drop game 1 and Cease or King or whoever is starting game 2, if they don't have it right away, go to King then. If it comes down to game 3, it's all hands on deck. King will come out of the bullpen at that point, but I just don't know how you leave Darvish, Cease, or Musgrove out of a start in a 3-game series.
I kind of thought that was the case as well, that King made the most sense as a bullpen guy. But if they do need Darvish here on Friday or Saturday, I don't know, his next scheduled is Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
If they needed him on Saturday, that could make the decision pretty easy in that you just got Cease, King, and Musgrove, healthy and ready to go for the series, and those are your starters. I mean, how do you see this working out?
And then Darvish is your hopeful
Game one,
division series starter. I think that
Darvish would be so nasty out of the bullpen, though, in a game 3 if you needed him.
I mean, I think this is a very, very difficult situation because it's on the margin. There's an argument to be made on both sides, and for the Padres, they have to figure out on the margin what's better for them. And what I think the margin is, how much do they think Yu Darvish could contribute in a bullpen situation versus how much they think Michael King could contribute in a bullpen situation versus our overall rankings from the beginning of who we think are our best 3 starters. Because I tell you what, before Tuesday, I think I was right there in lockstep with Paulie saying we're going to go Cease game 1, Musgrove and Darvish as their rotation turn comes up. It would have been Darvish for game 3 on 4 days rest. And King goes to the bullpen. And then I saw King throw, saying he doesn't have his good stuff.
Yeah.
A full count, one of the dirtiest pitches I've ever seen to strike out Shohei Ohtani.
Nasty.
Now, the umpire called it a ball.
Yep.
But that was one of the dirtiest pitches I've ever seen. Situationally, execution-wise, King can handle the ball in a playoff situation, and he's got the second best stuff on the team. So him starting is great for this team.
And I don't think I honestly, Paulie, and I thought about what you said, and I kind of agreed with you before we talked about it in here. Like, that's the way it's always been. I'm gonna go Darvish, Cease, Musgrove, or some iteration of, because, well, that's the way we've always done it in baseball. But I think Michael King, as valuable as he can be out of the pen, we talked to him. He really wants a playoff start, seems to be ready for the occasion. Times out pretty well for him to start a game 1. And I can't see anyone in the media or anywhere going, how could you possibly go with Michael King there? How could you possibly do that? It's pretty easy to justify if you're Mike Schilt and A.J. Preller and the holistic creators of the rotation. Yeah, why wouldn't we? He's been fantastic for us in his stuff, his nasty, any matchups against whoever it may be. I think he covered your ass pretty easily there.
This conversation's kind of turned into how do we get Michael King into a game. I think the better framing is who gives you the best possible chance to win game 1.
Right.
Because then if you do win game 1, you open up a lot more possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's a pretty easy call.
You're Cease and King in game 1. There you go.
Your dream obviously is just play 2 games, right? You need 2 starters. Right, that's the dream.
Right, and 2 days off.
And do we have the team and the horses and the bullets to do it? Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. And so that is obviously the dream scenario, which doesn't really feel like a dream. It feels like it could be a possibility, no matter who we play. But they got to hit too. They got to hit. It's not just about the pitching in October, and they got to play defense, which they don't do for Michael King for whatever reason. But he always finds a way to kind of wriggle out of it, minimize the damage, and minimization in the playoffs. I mean, they've done a pretty good job at minimizing this series so far, and that's a playoff team they're facing. So they continue to do that, they're going to win.
And Annie, I kind of agree with Woods in that there are no wrong decisions here. You can't go with anyone and really open yourself up to criticism, because there's a great argument for all of those guys to get
Yeah.
postseason starts and innings.
And I mean, there's other teams, right? The Dodgers, probably even the Diamondbacks, that would love to have this kind of problem right now that the Padres are having. And I see it both ways for sure. I think that you do go with Cease, and hopefully he did get some of those kind of whatever wobbles that he had yesterday out of the way, right? And I do think you go with Joe Musgrove. For me, I also say Darvish, but you could go either way. I mean, Michael King's earned it. I do think playoff experience is valuable. That if you've already had the playoff experience, but also you got to get it at some point,
Yeah,
no
you
matter
gotta
what.
get it, right.
And
Yeah,
maybe you do throw King out there, and then that way for the division series, or supposing you get there,
If you
can depend on him.
to win a World Series, you're going to need all four of those guys to pitch really well at some point. So,
Got to get him the experience.
but and I don't know how much you can manage looking ahead. Following, what are the Brewers doing against the Phillies? And it looks like we're going to match up with them, and this is a better matchup for us. You really have to. It's live and die each day. What do I got to do to win today's ball game? We'll figure the rest out tomorrow. But with four really quality starters, you are afforded a little bit more of a luxury if you're the San Diego
and
Padres.
for that wild card game, I think that they could very well piggyback guys. And just
Absolutely. Yeah.
ride
Get that
their
first
if
one.
someone's not doing well, just okay, we got someone else ready to go.
That leash gets real tight, and it gets real short come next Tuesday.
Well, and what makes it so tough for us is because it's not just a seniority thing. Oh, well, you have to start Darvish.
Right.
Musgrove's from San Diego, so obviously he has to get a start. They're all pitching really well.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Darvish, for as much time as he missed, has looked really good in September, and he's gotten better and better with each start. So you're not just giving it to him because he's the veteran, future Hall of Fame Darvish. He's earned it as well.
Earned it
He's
as well.
pitching really
Yeah.
well.
Certainly better than, I don't know, the last couple of times out where you were throwing a lot of pitchers in the playoffs because you had no other alternative, whether it's Mike Clevenger or
the
Craig
four-run
Stammen.
four-run
Ryan
lead
Weathers.
that Clev
Ryan
blew.
Weathers.
Yeah.
4 runs in the first,
Dead to me.
and you just 4 runs. And you're like, bro, just literally give up a run here. There, let's get to the bullpen. No, I mean it was
And they gave
4-4,
Manaea the lead, and then he tanked
and then
it,
they
too.
tanked it too.
It's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, presented commercial-free by Roundtable Pizza. It is pizza royalty. One of my favorite moments of the champagne-soaked celebration on Tuesday night was when Manny Machado grabbed a phone and had Ha-Seong Kim on FaceTime in Arizona, where he's continuing his work rehabbing, and celebrated, "We love you," said it in Korean, repeated it, was very excited to see him. Now, reading between the lines a little bit, if they really thought that Ha-Seong Kim probably wasn't going to come back, he would have been with the team celebrating. That tells me that Ha-Seong Kim is getting really close, and they want to maximize his chance of returning and being able to contribute for the Padres in the playoffs. That's just my kind of my logical leap on this one. So if Ha-Seong Kim does return, Paul, how do you work him back onto the team? Is he the starting shortstop? Is he the starting second baseman, leaving Xander Bogaerts at short and moving Jake Cronenworth likely to first base? Or is he a platoon second baseman with Jake Cronenworth with lefties and righties and letting matchups dictate your postseason decisions?
So I think defensively, it's not a hot take here that Ha-Seong Kim is the better shortstop defensively, but I really fall into the camp of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the team has played really well over the last 6 weeks. I think without him getting really any game time, I mean, he's going to get some complex games or whatever, low level games going, I'm sure, but without getting acclimated to the major league speed again, I think you have to ease him in. And if that's a platoon situation, you play the matchups. I wouldn't tinker a ton with what they've been running out there.
Or Annie, I will add, even a bench piece is a possibility if he is brought back to the roster.
Yeah, because there's things that we don't know, right? Will he be 100%? How will he feel? How will he be able to use just health-wise? I think you keep Xander where he is. Look, he hasn't been getting reps at second base since he's moved over to shortstop. He is the only player, when we're out there watching the pregame drills, the only main superstar starter that's out there doing drills every single day to get work at shortstop while everyone else is resting their legs because it's September and you're not doing that kind of thing this time of the year. But he's had to do it to try to get himself better at shortstop to be able to make this move for the Padres and be the team guy. They had a move in spring training, had a move now. In my opinion, you don't have a move again. You leave him there and let that work. You ride or die with it, in my opinion.
Even though, and yeah, I think I tend to agree. I mean, I was at Oracle a couple weeks ago and was pretty surprised watching batting practice, watching the violent violent hacks of Ha-Seong Kim in the batting cage at Oracle, and I was like, that's Kimmy, and he is taking absolutely violent hacks in this batting cage. For him, I think it's an issue of can he throw the ball across the diamond. Are you guys nervous when they hit the ball to shortstop? I am. I'm nervous right now, and some brilliant plays notwithstanding. Made a brilliant play last night. Really, really tough play. But those routine, you give up a run here, you give up a run there, is brutal, and you cannot have it in the postseason. So your defense is already suffering with Crony at second because he's not at first, right? And I think Crony's made some good plays. Crony's better defensively at first than he is at second, I think. Ha-Seong Kim at second makes a little bit of sense to me. I don't know. I don't know what they do. And it's all dependent on health. And a bench piece, fine. Is he a defensive replacement late in the game? I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. What does he bring with the bat? Not as much as Donovan Solano has the capability of bringing. I know he's on a little bit of a cold snap right now, but I mean, I tend to just kind of leave it as it is right now. Unless he's like, I'm 100%, I'm ready to go. I just don't know. I don't know that you put him back at short immediately.
Hold that, because I got some thoughts on that, but I want Craig to give his thoughts on what he'd do with Ha-Seong Kim if he comes back here.
I just don't know that they're going to bring him back. I think it's a real complicator to this team, to the lineup dynamic, and to the defensive dynamic as well. You guys were chatting about this a little bit as I was driving into work. Like, I was trying to piece it out, because right now they got a 28-man roster.
Yeah.
When you cut it down, and you count all the guys, and you're like, of course we're going to keep Peralta. If you're going to... Peralta, Wade, Lockridge would be the bench. You have to cut one of those guys to put Kim on the team. So are you going to cut Peralta for Kim?
No.
Are you going to cut Tyler Wade, who's been there since day one?
Yes.
For Kim?
Yes,
I guess...
Probably.
Now...
Probably.
Now,
Just
do you feel...
brutal.
Sorry, pal.
Do you feel
Ruthless.
more or less comfortable in a playoff at bat or a playoff pinch running situation with Kim out there versus Wade?
AB, Kim, better with Kim.
I mean, maybe
base
like
running.
base running Wade slightly, but not big enough.
Not
I
big enough
think,
to make me-
to overcome the difference in
Yeah.
the potential. And this is the point that because we've been talking mostly like defense and keeping Xander comfortable and where Kim could be most valuable. Padres have quietly, half of their team has started struggling offensively,
Yeah.
including Donovan Solano.
Yes.
Jake looking a little bit better, but it had a really ragged, last couple
Terrible
of months.
September, yeah.
Even Manny's cooled off a little bit. Arise has cooled off. Ha-Seong Kim, while he's been dealing with the shoulder, as Wood said, he's been swinging
Violently.
and while he has not had a great offensive season, you don't have to have a good offensive season to have a good offensive playoffs. And we've seen a Ha-Seong Kim, a version of him that is a top 10 MVP vote getting player. And
Tyler Wade is not going to have a hot postseason.
But,
He's
but
not.
Ha-Seong Kim could get hot enough where he actually is a difference maker offensively for you in the postseason. Is it likely? Probably not. Would you like to have that opportunity, though, of, Grisham got hot? Ha-Seong Kim could easily get hot and be someone that helps you win a World Series, even with his bat. And
I think Solano's got a much better chance of getting hot.
Probably.
than Ha-Seong Kim,
Probably.
Who can't
Do you
handle
need Ha-Seong
97.
Kim to get in by the Arizona series then for that to
That
happen?
would be
or-
helpful.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I need to see something.
That's
from
fair.
Kim.
Just not coming in cold from the complex, running out.
When did he
and-
go down? Mid-August? Early August?
It was August 25th.
August 25th. Okay. So, I mean, that's a whole month plus
Yeah.
of being cold. That's certainly a wrinkle.
There's also and I don't totally understand it, but there is the Ha-Seong Kim vibes
Yes.
of the energy and the love that he brings to that team, that you kind of inject that at a time when I know the playoffs, everyone's got high vibes, but come on, overcharge them, bring back that love. that
Tyler Wade
everyone
brings
has.
that too, though, and
does,
he's
he
beloved.
does.
He's a guy in the clubhouse that speaks.
Yeah.
He is a speaker in the San Diego
Then
Padres clubhouse.
maybe Lockridge. I know everyone says, he's got it locked up because he stole 2 bases and he's a good defender. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But maybe you keep Tyler Wade for that instead of
Lockridge is certainly the easiest one. Like, that's the easiest
That's the easiest
decision
one to
make.
say. So-
Okay, but if there's one player in the outfield that you might be a little worried about in the 9th inning of a clinching playoff game. It's the guy who just made 2 incredible diving catches on Tuesday night. And Brandon Lockridge is indisputably a better option than Wade going into the outfield in that situation. So I do see the value of keeping Lockridge. That's why I kind of keep falling on the, well, if he's out, they can just keep saying he's still hurt. And then they, and,
How about this? Expanded playoff rosters for everybody.
Embarrassment of riches.
An embarrassment of riches.
And
30 guys.
I believe you still need 13 pitchers and 13 position
Do you
players.
have to whack it up like
I feel like
that?
the Padres need 13 pitchers, but let's talk about the pitchers while we're on this, because they're going to have to make a decision as well. I mean, you don't necessarily need Alec Jacob. Wandy Peralta got big outs, at the end of the game in a 1-run game yesterday. He has playoff experience. Sean Reynolds, if he's healthy, has an electric arm.
Of course.
What do you do, Annie, with the back of the Padres bullpen in your roster decisions for the postseason?
They get to reset it before every.
Yes, they do.
So I think that's how you play it, right? I think that you look at who you're facing, who's the opponent. The 3-game series is going to be a lot different to me than the 5-game series. It's going to be a lot different if they make it to a 7-game series, right? So I think Sean Reynolds is more dominant, has more of a presence on the mound. Maybe obviously has a heat. But yeah, Alec Jacob has done well for them.
Craig, can we kind of agree? We'll see Yuki Matsui next season when hopefully he's a little more acclimated. And could be an important part of the bullpen in 2025, but we may not see him again in 2024.
No, simplest move that you make is you leave Yuki off the postseason roster and you put Martin Perez in that bullpen spot where he can be an extra innings weapon for you.
That was a huge point. AJ Cassavell made it that I hadn't even thought of. With no extra runner, Manfred runner, you need someone who can eat 4 innings for a 13, 14 inning game.
I think you keep Martin Perez
in the postseason in case you
extra
got one
innings
of those
could go
games
15 innings.
They can throw up some zeros in extra innings that you don't need in the regular season. But Martin Perez would be the perfect guy
Won
for
a World
extra
Series
innings.
last year.
He's a no-brainer.
Come out of the bullpen before.
He'll give you 4
left-handed pitcher.
Quality innings,
To the second one, I'd love to see Sean Reynolds activated this weekend and to pitch in Arizona because I need to see it. Again, he's a converted infielder who's never even touched the playoffs. If he comes walking out of the playoff bullpen, I'm going to be scared list.
Yeah.
And honestly, I will be the same with Jacob because he's got lesser stuff. So I need to see it from Reynolds. Otherwise, honestly, in the first round, I would be fine with carrying neither of those guys and adding Kim, Wade, and Lockridge.
If you end up facing the Dodgers, do you try to get Tom Cosgrove back just for Shohei Ohtani?
No.
Okay, no. Paul, any thoughts on the bullpen?
I agree with everything that was just said.
Perfect.
Yuki.
He's not the best
See you in spring
roundtable
training.
replacement for nothing. Folks.
I agree.
All right, Paul,
Me too
your
as
first,
well.
time for your very first 7th inning stretch of our roundtable. I think this is a good question for Paulie especially, but all of us really. I want to thank again Roundtable for being the sponsor all season long. Roundtable was the place I went to as a kid for pizza and to play arcade console games, the put the quarter in games. So the question for the 7th inning stretch today: what was your favorite have to put the quarter in game that you played growing up at the arcade?
Oh, man. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Paulie.
We had Godfather's Pizza in Burien, Washington.
Roundtable pizza.
And at the redacted pizza place, they had a Simpsons game that was really fun, but I think my all-time favorite arcade game was Area 51, where you had the plastic guns and the aliens or whatever. You're going through it. You could play with a partner or with a friend. It was so much fun.
I am of the age that arcade games were our video games.
Yes.
Didn't have any
until
other
I was
options.
until I was like in 4th or 5th grade when home consoles first came to be. So this is near and dear to my heart. We had a pizza place, a local pizza place that was a short bike ride away from my house, and tell you what, RBI baseball was my favorite. Playing the old, they'd have all these old timers. I think it was Rube Waddell on the Giants. I'd pick him because he had this crazy screwball, and I could always strike out my buddies with that pitch.
Woods?
I remember when Top Gun came out. I don't know if they called it Top Gun, but
Were you just going to the arcade to meet girls, or were you
I
actually
did.
going
I mean,
there?
it was at the mall, and there were a lot of girls there. But we loved video games. You get a trough of quarters, and your pockets are so full. And there was a game, and you actually got in, and it had the joystick, and it would turn, and you could do the barrel roll. And I can't remember for the life of me what it was. I want to say it was like a ripoff of Top Gun or something, but you're in the F-14 flying it. That
Top
was
Flight.
Yeah, something like that. It was great. And then Silent Scope. Remember Silent Scope?
I do remember that.
It was incredible. You were a sniper. and it was just like you had the scope and everything. It was a brilliant game. But the old school games, I mean, obviously like Donkey Kong, Pac-Man I always hated it. It was always too stressful for me. It was too anxiety ridden. Those ghosts chasing you, trying to get the strawberry. No thanks.
Annie, were you a video game player at the arcades at all?
Mine isn't a video game, but when I was a kid, we went through many pockets of being poor in our household. And when we moved into a rental, we didn't have any couches or any furniture, but my dad did some work at Chuck E. Cheese. And when they closed, they sent him home. They let him take 2 skee-ball machines and some picnic tables. So we had no couches, no furniture, no dining table or anything.
Skee-ball.
But we had the skee-ball machines and the picnic tables, and we were kids, and me and my sister, so I got really good at skee-ball during that time, and then we would go play in high school and stuff, and
just
skee-ball.
hustle people.
Just hustle people. Yeah. So it was a good time.
Incredible.
So
So
I-
get it in the top left.
You mentioned my
A lot of
choice,
practice.
Woods. I was going to pick Donkey Kong because I like games where you could get past a level and then
Yeah.
it would up the difficulty, and like you're trying to keep that quarter alive as long as possible.
we know you, yes.
without dying. Yeah, because you want to save as much money as possible. But Pac-Man is an interesting choice. Not the one where you stood up, but remember when they had the one that was the flat
Yeah.
and you get
Yeah,
to sit
tabletop,
at the
yeah.
table.
Your pizza was over
And
here.
yeah, you had your pizza on the flat. It
was great.
Pac-Man was always a lot of fun to get to sit in one of those games. All right, we're bringing back the Roundtable draft today as well here on our final regular season Roundtable. Remember the rules. You cannot pick something that has already been chosen, just like a regular draft. The order this week is reverse alphabetical order by last name. So, Woods, you have the first selection in today's Roundtable draft. And, of course, it is focused on the postseason. Padres have played themselves over the
Last pick. Dang it.
The Padres have played themselves into being, I think everyone would agree, legitimate World Series contenders.
Yep.
So the question on the draft is, which team presents the biggest obstacle to the Padres winning the World Series now in 2024? Could be National, could be American League. Which team in your mind might be the worst matchup, the one you don't want to face, the biggest obstacle to the Padres winning the whole thing, the World Series?
The Padres.
Ooh,
Oh, you son of a gun.
really?
Yeah. They play their
That's
game.
a bit of an arrogant answer
It is.
as well.
It is. They play their game. They can beat any of those teams. They can. They have. They will. Listen. You've got a lineup that's as deep as it's ever been. It's as deep as anybody else's. If they play if they play clean baseball, and their bullpen does what they're capable of doing, and their starters give them, 5. They're their own worst enemy right now, honestly.
All right, Reindl, you are next up in reverse alphabetical order.
Hey, thank you for leaving the field for me.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna go with a National League team because honestly, everybody's gonna be a good team in the playoffs, but the American League does not scare me as much as maybe it should. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Philadelphia Phillies.
Sure.
That's the
pick.
team that knocked you out in 22. That's the team that has major star power, home run threats up and down the lineup, great pitching, but it's personal. Like, that's the team, not the Dodgers. That's the team that you need to beat. And I don't know how the playoffs are going to shake out, if they would see them in the DS or the NLCS. But I think right now my bar is got to win a pennant, get to the World Series. After that, we'll see what happens. But I do think that the Phillies are probably the team that you have some history with. They play everybody tough. That's the team that I want to see them take the next level and get past.
It does mean you're a next level team if you beat a team like the Phillies. You're next level. Like you absolutely
In a
belong.
series, yeah.
Higgins sneaks just in front of Heilbrunn for the next pick. I thought the Phillies was a good selection. It was probably
reverse.
Oh,
Yeah.
reverse alphabetical order. I was probably going to take the Phillies with Nola and Wheeler both being pitchers that give the Padres in particular a lot of trouble, so I think that's a really good answer, and I kind of agreed with you on the American League. However, if we're really talking about winning the World Series, and it comes down to it, maybe they won't ever have to face him, but having to go up against Judge and Soto in a potential World Series and having to go back to Yankee Stadium, just like in 1998, where the world's probably going to be against you for the most part in a series like that.
Different Yankee Stadium, though.
But that might to me be the biggest obstacle, the final boss, just like in an arcade video game that you got to get past, and having to face the guy you traded away. What unbelievable storylines that would be.
I just don't think they make it. That's the thing.
I don't know that they
just
do
don't think
either,
they
but
make
if they are there, they would be a pretty big obstacle to stand in the way of the Padres finally.
Whoever's there, it's going to be a big obstacle.
Yeah, sure.
You don't just cruise into the World Series or luck your way into the World
Someone's playing
Series.
well at that point if they've gotten to the World Series. Judge is scary. Soto is scary. I mean, I'm going to pick the Yankees. Annie?
These are all very good answers. I'm going to invoke the spirit of Chris Ello and ride your coattails a little bit and say baseball. Just
Baseball.
going through getting into a cold stretch, out of nowhere, an injury popping up out of nowhere, just weird baseball-y things, weird errors, a piece of equipment malfunctioning. Baseball. I think baseball will be, because I agree, I think they have a chance to beat any team.
Craig's going to fight you the next 3 hours on your show about that answer.
This entire situation is a trap. The last time you trapped me, it's been held against me on every show. Every show.
Which one?
Somebody in the chat says, "Oh, well, you're a Diamondbacks lover because you picked the Diamondbacks and you think the Diamondbacks going to win."
It's a draft.
And then half the panel cheats. You cheated and you cheated. You both cheated. You did not follow the prompt.
All right,
you're a cheater and you're a cheater.
I'll take the
I am
Dodgers.
cheating too. The Angels. I am scared of the Angels, Ben. Okay, come at me, folks. Come at me. I'm scared of the Angels, okay? Game.
I'll do the Dodgers. I'll change
There
mine.
you go. Thank you, Woods. Someone had to pick
I'll do the
them.
Mets.
Yeah, there you go. The Mets. You happy now?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Please.
All right.
For goodness sakes. You're setting me up so I can spend the next week hearing, "Oh, there's the Dodger lover again. There's the guy who picked the Dodgers. I guess you better have a Dodger fan in the mid-bay."
Oh, I've been living it for 7 years,
Angels.
Craig.
Oh,
There's a Dave Roberts
can't
soundbite
get
that I will
me.
never
I'm not going to
escape.
take it. Not taking it. Not taking that bullet.
I think
there's some
honestly,
tension.
I think honestly, every team that's in the playoffs, you are your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
If you got there for a reason, and if you pitch like you did to get there, and you
I'm getting the
hit,
Padres too, then.
Or
I know.
overthinking things. I didn't honestly didn't hear. I missed it if you said a team. I thought it was
I
like
did say
a
team.
generality.
That's okay.
But I'll go with Mets.
the Mets.
Yeah.
They're scary as
But I
hell.
think overthinking, even strategizing, who knows? Any of that could ruin you.
Yeah, the Braves are scary, by the way.
Yeah, they
Chris
are.
Sale pitch. They would
And
they would scare me.
Schwellenbach.
They would scare me.
You can make an argument for literally every team.
Every team. That's why they have the
Milwaukee's pretty
playoffs.
good.
Every one of those teams could win the World Series.
I'll go with
I love
my
our
God.
team. I think our team is good.
Who knew that after 6 months of the roundtable, it was going to end in a giant pizza-throwing food fight brawl between the 5 of us left on this panel?
And then Ello just skates by. Tony just skates by. No, I wasn't taking that Dodger bullet. No, wasn't doing it.
What was yours?
I picked the Yankees.
Yankees.
I picked the Yankees.
Way in the future.
Yeah, a little bit.
What, we didn't even say the Brewers.
No, didn't say the Brewers. Didn't say the
I don't know why
Astros.
the Brewers don't scare anyone. They play
Guardians.
The
really-
Guardians. Have fun with Emmanuel
Astros.
Clase closing every game at 103 mile an hour cutter.
Our team's really good.
Well, the Padres have handled most of these teams
They have.
over the course of the season. They won the series against the Guardians. They won the season series against the Brewers. They have handled playoff teams quite well. And honestly, if you want the fake answer from me, math is always the hardest thing to beat in a postseason. Like an NCAA tournament, there are 12 teams, and only one of them is going to
That's
win the
true.
World Series. at
And
the
honestly,
end.
Annie's right too. I mean,
Baseball.
you're right.
Dumb baseball.
2 out of 3.
Two out of
White
three.
Sox could beat the Yankees 2 out of 3.
And like the Braves set up well for a 2 out of 3, but do they set up well for a 5?
And
Do they set up well
I
for
made
a
the
7?
point yesterday. If you won 3 out of every 4 series all year long, you'd probably be right around a 100-win team, best team in baseball. You win 3 out of 4 series in the playoffs, you know what you are?
Home.
Loser. You're home.
Golfing.
You have to win all
You're
4.
golfing.
Right.
You have to win all 4 series to win the World Series, or if you get to
Yeah.
buy 3. But still,
Like, it doesn't
there's
matter.
no margin for error, and it's set up where 11 of the teams will be eliminated, no matter how good they are playing. There could be 3 teams that are playing out of their mind great baseball. 2 of them, at least, will not win the World Series at the end. It's why it's so hard. It's why the Padres, one of the reasons they don't have one. It's really, really hard to do it, and that is the really biggest challenge to overcome in any postseason.
It's also true. And This is going to be a blast. And here's the other
You
thing.
guys ready for this?
I mean,
No, clearly
We're
not.
already cannibalizing each other.
right? I
This
mean,
is-
no, but no, it's really all your fault, Ben. I mean,
It always
you,
is.
it's you who set the trap. I mean, for goodness sakes, these guys just jumped over it. They're smart, but I had to call them out. This is why baseball playoffs. Billy Beane was right, okay, and he's still right. Like, the playoffs are. It's not a true representation. The regular season is a true representation because here's something I was just thinking about today. Like, all year, what do we say to everybody? Like, it's one game, it's one series, it's 1 month, it's one half. Don't overreact. The game is long, it takes a long time. Everybody overreacts every game now. If Manny Machado goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts in game
End of the
one,
world.
he's a loser who didn't show up and he had a terrible year and burr. And contrastingly, if Elias Diaz hits 2 doubles
a hero.
in game one, he's the greatest thing ever. So the randomness of this sport writ small means that we need to try and find a way to exalt our players, love our team, enjoy the experience, and accept the result, whatever the result might be.
Yeah, no question. It's the beauty of that game is that, you may take your foot off the gas for the 8 and 9 hole hitter who comes through and has a huge. I mean, think about Rosario in the postseason. Think about the Shane Spencers of the world. Think about the Scott Brocious
David
of the
Eckstein.
world. David Eckstein. All of these. David Freese. I mean, just like. You look at Stephen Pierce. You're joking. This guy is as locked in. He got hot for 2 weeks. World Series champion, World Series MVP. And I love that about baseball.
But
I love that because it's not just I've got Tom Brady and I've got the greatest receivers and I've got the best running back. It's no. I got 9 and I play great defense and I pitch well and I got a little lucky and our 9-hole hitter came through, got a bunt down, whatever it may be. That's what I love.
But there are also years where really good and deep teams just play really good and good baseball for a month and they win the World Series.
Yeah.
There's sometimes the World Series champion pretty legitimate as well. So you can't just say it's a crapshoot, it's a coin flip. You have to go out and do it. And some teams, I'd rather have the deeper team with the better lineup and the better pitching
Sure.
staff.
It almost
all things being equal.
almost guarantees you nothing, though. As
Yeah,
we
the
know.
Rangers won last year.
Right, Rangers
So,
won. Right.
Last year was not one of those years, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't.
So there are years like that, but not every year. So we'll find out what kind of year this is. After a few threats by Stephen Woods and foot stomping, I believe he did agree to continue roundtabling as long as the Padres are alive. Did
I don't-
you not?
I did- I
You don't
don't-
remember agreeing
No,
to that
talk-
with
Part of your
Adam?
contract.
Can you
Talk to
wait
my
for
agent, man.
Can
Talk
you
to
wait
my
for
agent.
next week's 1-1
Quarterback
game
at
3
a-
round?
Check local listings, but we will keep you informed as to any future roundtable events involving all of us. Paulie, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I'm signing
Once all
off. Good to be
season.
with you guys all season.
See you next.
Woods is ready
Take
to
your
play.
contract.
Talk
he's-
to my
Oh, if it was
agent.
up to Adam, we'd have an off-season roundtable
Oh,
every week. This
every
would
week.
never, ever,
It would
ever,
never end.
Ever end. Thanks to all of our crew that helped us put it together. Braden's usually in the studio. Adam, JR is here today. Mike, who's having a grandkid today. Congratulations to
Amazing.
him and everyone who's helped out all season long. That's it for us. For Annie, for Woodsy, for Craig, for Paul, I'm Ben. Annie and Elston coming up next live here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.